We're live. Okay, good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Council of the City of Long Beach held Tuesday, February 15th, 2022 at 7 p.m. We'll have a roll call. Whoops. Councilmember Postoli. Hello?
You're muted.
You're muted, Tina.
There you are.
Oh, so I'm so sorry about that. I couldn't get off mute, so here I go.
Okay, you're here. Councilmember Lester.
Here.
Councilmember Bendo.
Present.
Vice President Treston.
Here.
President McGinnis is absent. Let the record indicate the presence of Corporation Counsel Richard Berrios. We'll now have a salute to the flag.
Councilwoman Fosterly, would you so honor us?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I just have a quick couple of announcements, so just bear with me for a few moments. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to the fourth meeting in the year of 2022. I hope everyone had a great Valentine's Day. Our city manager, the council president, and our communications director are representing the city at a function tonight where they'll be providing the audience an update on what's happening in Long Beach and thanking an organization for their generous donation of an accessible piece of equipment for one of our playgrounds. Next, there's been a lot of misinformation out in the community regarding the potential for installation of a parking system in the central business district. Unfortunately, a survey and letter was circulated that contained outdated and inaccurate information. I want to be very clear on this. The city was not consulted with, aware of, or involved in the creation or distribution of these materials. As for the facts, staff have been exploring this project for well over a year, and they've noted as such at many of our council meetings. We, the council, had our first working session on this subject on January 20th. A recording of that meeting is available on the city's website, and we invite you and encourage you to review it. We anticipate another working session with Flowbird in the near future that will be focused on reviewing the financial and revenue projections. After that, there will be additional meetings on the subject with the public, and we will welcome prior input to anything moving forward. We know this is a topic that is generating a lot of interest, and rightfully so. This council and this administration are committed to getting as much public engagement and input as possible on the process. And that's on the parking. Tomorrow, just remember, the Loop Parkway is going to begin openings that are between the hours of 10 and 2 for work that is expected to be concluded, weather permitting, on Friday. So please plan your trips accordingly over the Loop Parkway. Tomorrow is the Winter's Farmers Market at the Bright Eye Beer Company, and the hours are from 1 to 6. Tomorrow's recycling is glass, metal, and plastic. I would be inattentive if I did not take a moment to recognize the athletes in our school district. Congratulations to all the county championships that are striving for another county championship and have succeeded. Our swimmers, our wrestlers, and especially our athletic director, Arnie Epstein, the Long Beach Lightning, the middle school wrestling. If you take an opportunity, please go and support your children at their events. And that's all I have, Dave. Thank you.
Okay, we'll start with the regular calendar. The first item is approval of minutes from prior meeting, February 1st, 2022. Do I have a motion to approve as it was amended?
Motion. I will.
Second?
I will.
Okay. Voting, Councilmember, excuse me, Councilmember Postoli,
Yes.
Councilmember Lester,
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo,
Mr. Bender,
You're
you're on.
muted,
You're
John.
muted.
Sorry. Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
Item 2 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement for operation of a snack bar at the city's ice arena.
Dave, can you get Joe on?
I don't believe he has signed on to the meeting as of yet.
Fine. All right. I can go. All right, good evening, council members. Rich Barrios here. As the resolution indicates, this is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement for the snack bar at the city's ice arena. As indicated, it's $2,600 in annual rent for 2 years with some options to renew for an additional 2 additional 2-year periods at the sole discretion of the city. Just for reference of the council and the public, we've discussed the matter with the vendor a little bit more, and the vendor has been willing to pay $100 per month in utilities for the first year, and further utilities to be negotiated after that first year is up. And with that, happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from our council members? Just for the public's information, this is the Philly Pretzel Factory is putting in the bid for to be at the ice arena. They are currently located at 134 East Park Avenue. So they are a local business.
And Rich, I understand you investigated the cost of the utilities, and you feel confident that they're not, it's basically an electric charge, that they're not using gas and oil and stuff like that.
That's correct. Based on our discussions with the vendor, the representations from the vendor are that he intends on only using electric, and a lot of his prep will happen at his Park Avenue location. So the ice arena location will be used more as like a warming station for all the goods and products served.
And he's taking the premises as is, so
That's
the city's not responsible for any repairs, new repairs, or anything like that.
That's correct. And the vendor would be responsible if he broke something.
Okay, that'd be great. All right, thanks.
No problem.
Any other questions from our council? Mr. Fraser, any questions from our public?
Yes, we have Mr. Kevin Heller. Mr. Heller, go ahead and unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mr. Heller.
Hi. Happy New Year, everyone.
Please state your
So-
name and address
oh.
for the record. Thank you.
Kevin Heller, 635 East Walnut Street in Long Beach. So this is to operate, is this just to sell pretzels, or this is to take over the entire concession?
Mr. Heller, it's for that the old snack bar that used to be in the ice arena. So it's a small location. So he will be selling pretzels. He'll have a menu as well. I think there'll be chips, snacks, and refreshments.
Okay. Does anyone have an idea in previous years when it was operated? I assume it was operated by the city. What was that sort of annual P&L on the snack bar? And before you even answer, just when I read the resolution, it sort of struck me as at $2,600 annually. I wondered to myself, was that a typo? Seems awfully low and potentially not really worthwhile. So maybe I'm missing something. Does anybody have an idea of the history of the P&L of the snack bar to the city previously?
Mr. Heller, Commissioner Brand has just been moved up to the panel. Perhaps he can answer your question. Commissioner?
Yeah, the city ran it on a very limited basis with a small menu. We were good for probably, I don't know, I want to say a couple $100 a day on a Saturday or Sunday, a weekend day there. There were private operators in there prior to us running it. What they did, I'm not privileged to. They had different rental agreements at the time. But as far as we ran it with a limited menu, it wasn't an amazingly profitable venture for us. We were doing it more on like a break-even type setup where we were just providing the service to the community.
And I just want to add, and Rich, correct me if I'm wrong, please. this went out for proposals 3 times? Rich, you're muted.
Sorry,
Yeah.
that's correct. We sent it out to RFP on a number of occasions, and just the sole bidder, as fate would have it.
Yeah. And Kevin, the other thing too is, and I know most people don't see this because I had missed it originally, there's a lot of information on the, not in the agenda, but right underneath the agenda that shows his menu and all of those things. What do you call it? Attachments to the agenda? It's got a specific word.
Councilman Lester, I'm just going to interrupt. Mr. Heller, you can find that in the attachments on the website, all of the information that we received before
Okay.
making a decision.
I mean, it just, when I saw the figure, it just struck me as very low. I guess it seems that maybe we're not looking at this as a real P&L center for the city, but more like the kids go to skate and they have something to eat, and the city's not bearing the cost of operating that. Is that a sort of correct way to frame it?
I think that is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening, Mr. Heller.
You too. Thank you so much.
Okay, no other speakers at this time.
Next item, Mr. Frazier, please.
Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, item number 3 is a resolution amending resolution number 17021, authorizing the purchase of sodium bisulfite.
The Commissioner Fabrizio.
I believe it's
Hang
Mr.
on.
Under April, I believe.
Yeah, that's where I was going.
Hello.
Good evening, Commissioner.
Hello. How are you?
Sorry to laugh. You have
Okay. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. This is Joe Fabrizio, Commissioner of Public Works. This is a resolution amending a resolution number 17021 from November 16, 2021 for the purchase of sodium bisulfite. The bids for this chemical were originally received in the Office of Purchasing on Thursday, October 22nd, 2021 at 11. On the bid proposal form, AutoChem, the apparent low bidder, listed their price in 2 separate distinct ways. One, they indicated it was $1,495 per 330-gallon tote, which equates to $4.53 a gallon, which was on the original resolution. And then they listed their price at $1,795 per 330-gallon tote, which equates to $5.44 a gallon, $5.44 a gallon, that is. Unfortunately, when the original resolution was prepared, the 4.53 gallon rate was utilized incorrectly. Unfortunately, it was not realized until we sent a contract to AutoChem and they refused to sign it at the lower rate. Please note that this was a rebid from August 2021, and the second low bidder, the sole bidder on that project was PVS Technologies at $8.25 a gallon. So this is still substantially less. And just so you know, sodium bisulfite is basically a chemical that's used at the wastewater treatment plant that takes chlorine out of the effluent before it goes into Reynolds Channel. We're actually required to chlorinate the water with sodium hypochlorite, and then we dechlorinate the water with sodium bisulfite. So it's a critical chemical that we utilize at the wastewater treatment plant. Any questions?
Joe, when we go to start pumping it over to Bay Park, are we still going to have to treat it, or will we be able to pump out what just as it comes out?
No, we will not be. There'll be no more processing of sewage at our plant. None of those processes will be needed anymore. We will simply be a pass-through. It'll be a pump station that pumps waste through a 19,000 linear foot force main to Bay Park. So no, none of these processes will be needed anymore once this conversion, the diversion project is completed.
Well, that's good.
It's really good.
Yeah.
We'll be out of the waste business.
And
Wastewater business.
one other question.
Sorry,
I'm-
Mr. Lester, go ahead.
One other question. You say that in the original bid, it had two different prices, two conflicting prices. Well, did I hear that correctly?
You did. Yes, you did. They basically listed it as they had a price of $1,495 per 330 gallon tote. A tote is basically a storage container.
Yes.
So that equates to $4.53 a gallon. They also listed it as $1,795 per 330 gallon tote, which represents a $5.44 per gallon. So unfortunately, in the resolution that you voted on previously, or that was voted on previously, it was $4.53 a gallon. So this is really more of a housekeeping resolution. They have been receiving the chemical because it's essential for use at the plant. We could not just not get it anymore. We needed to purchase the actual sodium bisulfite to keep the plant operating and stay within our regulatory requirements for effluent. So I consider it a housekeeping resolution. It was a mistake, unfortunately.
But why?
Prezio, that
You know-
is completely, I'm sorry, Mr. Lester, completely understood. Is there any other question regarding this item agenda?
Well, I'm curious why, when we saw the duplicate, was, how did we not pick it up? Is that something that, have we created a procedure so that won't happen again? Or was there something that I'm missing on that why it wasn't picked up?
I think it was simply a mistake.
Okay. All right. No other questions.
Mr. Bendo?
Joe, we've already consumed totes so far this year, correct?
Correct. So we've
All
basically,
right. So this is going to affect the price to what we've already consumed as well, correct?
no, it's my understanding, again, they refused to deliver the chemical at the rate which was the $4.53 per gallon. So we have been receiving the chemical, it's my understanding, and they have been paying the $5.44 price because they refused to deliver it at the $4.53 per gallon.
So they have been paying the $5.44 price.
Yes.
Okay, but how are they doing that if it wasn't authorized at $5.44 a gallon?
Well, what happened is apparently a purchase order was issued because we needed to get, you can't view without this chemical.
No, I understand that. All right.
Right.
Well, so here is, I guess, my point. The way the resolution is currently written, it talks about at $5.44 per gallon for approximately 5,000 gallons to finish the fiscal year. If we've been paying $5.44 all along, we have to amend this to reflect what we've used this fiscal year.
Right. So in other
And
words,
will use for the
when we
remainder
originally, in November, when we passed the original resolution, November 16th, it was for 10,000 gallons. Now we've used 5,000 additional gallons since then. So we need another 5,000. So you're correct. So the $5,000 from November 16th to the present was essentially paid at the price. So that, I guess, would have to be amended to say that it's really 10,000 gallons at $5.44, not 10,000 gallons at $4.53 a gallon. Is that what you mean?
Yeah,
I have a-
because
I have a
it wasn't
suggestion.
authorized to pay at $5.44 a gallon.
Correct. Yeah, I understand your point, and it's a good point.
I can make a recommendation on an amendment to that be it resolved portion of the resolution, if that helps the council at all. Okay, so
Please, sir.
right where Councilman Bendo mentioned, which is $5.44 per gallon, right after that language, we would put for an approximate total of 10,000 gallons for this fiscal year, comma, with 5,000 gallons already purchased and approximately 5,000 gallons still needed to finish this fiscal year, comma, at a total remaining cost of $26,925. And that should, I think, put a bow on it.
Okay, I'm not even going to attempt to write that down. So
I'll send it to the clerk.
I'm sorry. Can you read that one more time?
Mr.
Sure,
Pereira, did you get that?
For an approximate total, I'll send it to Dave now, for an approximate total of 10,000 gallons for this fiscal year, comma, with 5,000 gallons already purchased, comma, and approximately 5,000 gallons still needed to finish this fiscal year, one more comma, at a total remaining cost of $26,925. Sending to the clerk right now.
Okay, so do I have a motion to amend using the language from the Corporation Council?
I will.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Voting on the amendment. Councilmember Postoli,
Yes.
Councilmember Lester,
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo,
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
Okay.
Any questions from the public?
I have no hands raised at this time.
Let us move on then to the next agenda.
Okay, our last item is item number 4. Whoops. Resolution authorizing transfer of funds for the 21-22 fiscal year. And let me bring up Mr. Flammer. Ray, go ahead and unmute yourself.
All right, can you hear me, Dave?
Yes.
All right, this camera's not working. This is a request to transfer funds in the amount of $70,000 from the tax surcharge claims line to the consultants line to pay for appraisal services. Appraisal services are needed as part of our financial restructuring process, tax surcharge defense, and pending litigation. We have a couple of nursing homes that are on the court calendar, and those are specialized properties that we feel more comfortable with appraisals moving forward as part of that process. The pending litigation is with Lido Towers for an easement. And with any litigation, the courts will only accept an independent appraisal. And, you know, as far as the nursing homes, it's also more regional approach to value as opposed to just comparing against Long Beach nursing homes. They use, as far as Queens, the rest of Nassau County data as well to value the properties. I guess that's it. Any questions?
Questions from the council members on this item?
Yes, please.
Mr. Lester?
Ray, yes, Ray, I'm trying to figure out how we differ in our tax surcharge than the county. Because most of the time, the county does not do appraisals of properties. They have, you know, literally thousands and thousands of tax certs every year. And they don't, you know, I know I've done it, and they've never sent anybody out to appraise.
On the more complex properties where they can't come to an agreement, they do get appraisals. I've had, you know, some of the law firms send me appraisals that they sent to the county. For example, a couple months ago, we did a tax surcharge settlement with Whipreds, and the opposing counsel submitted an appraisal that they had with Nassau County. Nassau County also has shared appraisals with us over the years. They don't do it on every case, just on cases where they can't come to a settlement. But before a trial in a tax surcharge proceeding, you have to have an appraisal, you conference with the appraisers, and then you submit the appraisal as evidence to the court. It's the last step in a tax surcharge process. And all counties that assess New York City, Nassau County, they all have appraisers that they hire to do independent appraisers.
So is this, every one of these tax certs are heavily contested, so to speak, or is this to prepare just in case they are?
This is, I have on the current court calendar, there is 3 nursing homes, and nursing homes are very specialized in that when you value the property, you're taking into consideration Medicaid and Medicare reimbursement rates, health insurance, cost to run the facility, and then you have to include the past couple years of COVID involved. So it's pretty complex, and you know, it's a little out of my wheelhouse are the nursing homes. And also have coming up the Allegria Hotel just filed a grievance as well for the first time in a few years. And that's something we might want to look at before it goes on to the final assessment roll. So that's another property. And with the other properties, as part of the financial restructuring process, the city properties, the financial experts want to see an independent appraisal. And that's something that we come up by ourselves.
You said for the city properties?
Yeah, that's part of the financial restructuring. that
Okay,
They're working on.
so the city property, the cost for the city property, wouldn't that be included in what we got for the money for the financial restructuring that the state just gave us? Couldn't we include that?
I don't know, Roy. I'd have to get back up to talk to Ina and Donna about that.
Liz, you're nodding your head no. Why would that be?
They're two separate, I believe they're two separate issues.
No, it's for restructuring that money. It was for consultants for restructuring.
That's not this agenda item.
He just said it was part of it. Part of the appraisals for the city property has to do with the restructuring.
I can
Did
try.
Ray, was that correct?
It's part of the process. I don't know if it's exactly, I'm getting these appraisals for Donna as part of the financial restructuring. I don't know exactly the process. Ina, would you like to?
Yes, I can add that. Councilman Lester. So the grants that were approved by FRB in
Yes.
November 2021 for restructuring work on a reimbursement basis. So what this transfer is doing is providing funds for us to be able to pay for these assessments now. And then at a later date, we'll evaluate all the expenses that pertain to restructuring, and we'll definitely include whatever we can for the.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Good. As long as we get some money back. Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying. Any other questions from the council members on this agenda item?
Just a comment. I think it's just important to note that this is not going to be spending additional money. We're not changing the budget overall. We are just taking money from one budget line item to move it to this one to be able to pay for this. We are not spending additional money.
John, if I'm not mistaken, cert money, and Rich, perhaps you can tell me, cert money that's put aside, that's not spent, goes back into, does it go back into next year's cert money, or does it just go back into the budget?
I think the CERT budget, I think Ray could speak to that, but his CERT tax certiorari settlement budget is a part of the ongoing annual budget process for him. So he would probably have to account for
Goes
that.
back to the fund balance.
It goes back into the fund balance.
There you go.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you, Ina. Any other questions? Any questions from the public, Mr. Frazier?
I have no hands raised. Oh, wait. I spoke too soon. Hold on one second. So we have Ann Flomenheft. Okay, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi,
Welcome to the meeting. Could you please state your name and
Hi, my name is
address for the record?
and I live at 10 Franklin Boulevard, apartment 302. I wanted to make a comment, not on this agenda item, but a comment to the city
Ms.
council.
Sloman, for now, you will have to wait for good and welfare. If you have
Okay.
another comment, this is a comment only for this agenda item.
Thank you.
You're welcome. See you in a few seconds.
Okay, that was the only hand raised. Hold on one second. Okay, oh, wait a minute. Okay. Okay, on to the voting portion. So item 2 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter an agreement for the operation of the snack bar at the city's ice arena. Who introduced and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second,
I will.
voting. Councilmember Postoli,
Yes, and I just want to say that we look forward to having the Philly Pretzel Factory pretzels at the snack bar at the Ice Arena, and I really need to try one of the cheeseburger pretzels. So yes.
Councilmember Lester,
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo,
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
Item 3 is a resolution amending resolution number 17021, authorizing the purchase of sodium bisulfite. Will introduce and move the adoption of this item as amended.
I will.
I'm sorry.
Second,
I will.
voting, Councilmember Postoli,
Yes.
Councilmember Lester,
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo,
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
And finally, item 4 is a resolution authorizing transfer of funds for the 21-22 fiscal year. Will introduce and move the adoption of this item.
I will.
Second,
I will.
voting, Councilmember Postoli,
Yes.
Councilmember Lester,
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo,
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes, and thank you, Mr. Flammer and Ms. Resnick, on clarifying our questions.
We'll make a motion to close the meeting.
I will.
Second,
I will.
voting, Councilmember Postoli,
Yes.
Councilmember Lester,
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo,
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
Okay. All right, folks. For good and welfare, everybody, you can use the raise your hand function if you do wish to speak. You will be given 3 minutes to speak. When the timer goes off, I will unmute myself and you'll start hearing the beeping in the background. That means please wrap it up in a sentence or two. And whoop, I'm going to reset that. And let's see, our first speaker this evening is Eileen Hessian. Go ahead, Eileen.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, Eileen.
I have a few questions.
Eileen, before you begin, just state your name. and
Yes,
city.
Eileen Hessian, 516 West Beach Street, Long Beach.
Thank you.
Okay, I know we're trying to save a lot of money, and I think you should probably tell us at the beginning of each of the meetings in the manager's report how you're saving us money so people are not thinking that we're just spending too much. Next, is it possible to get a list of the cars and the brand names that are being used in the city, in the fleet, and how many of them are going home each night? Because I hear a lot of Lincoln Navigators are there, and I'm wondering why. Governor Hochul has suggested that we rezone single housing. I don't think we should do that in Long Beach, and I'm wondering if anybody is doing anything about that. And finally, about the parking meters. The council put out the survey because they had information from, the Chamber of Commerce put it out because they had information from the council. Did they have the complete information, or is there more information coming out? Thank you.
Eileen, can you just mute because there's a lot of background? If you can. If not, just Commissioner Walsh is here, and I will have him address your parking question.
Thank you.
Can I be heard?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, they just delivered me. Can I? Okay. Hi, everybody. Yeah, so we had a meeting regarding the parking plan with the Chamber of Commerce. It was basically reviewed the information that we gave out in the first meeting, the only meeting we've actually had regarding the parking plan so far. That was a public meeting. They spoke about finalized costs and for the city. They spoke about a bunch of things that were never really discussed in that meeting. I don't have their exact post in front of me, but when I read it, I was scratching my head a little bit as to where some of the information did come from. I can assure you that this is in the proposal stage and development stage. We have a very comprehensive plan that we are looking to get more direct input from the council, or the required input from the council, and it's very well thought out, and the public is going to have the opportunity to make their comments at those meetings as well. We're trying to reschedule another meeting within the next 7 to 10 days, so you'll have an opportunity to even get more educated yourself on it. So it's not a done deal by any means. It is certainly something that the city is looking to do, but the final manner in which it's going to manifest isn't complete.
Thank you, Commissioner.
You're welcome.
Dave, who's next?
Okay.
Hold on a second, because
what?
Eileen asked a couple of other questions. All right, so we should.
I took notes.
Yeah,
I have one short answer for Ms. Hessian's question on Governor Hochul's accessory single dwelling proposal.
Yes.
We've already signed on. NICOM sent out a couple of letters not too long ago to all all municipalities around Long Island to basically oppose it. I believe we did. We signed a letter against it, as did a number of other municipalities in the county. So,
Thank you, Rich.
no problem.
I can also make tell you that as far as the police department fleet goes, no Lincoln Navigators exist in the police department fleet. I know, and I can also know just from familiarity that no Lincoln Navigators exist in the fire department, and nor do I believe any navigators exist in the city inventory that I know of at all. But
none exist in our fleet. You're right, Commissioner.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. So that's a bit of a misnomer. I don't know, I'm not sure where that came from.
Thank you. I'd still love to see the list of cars that we have. Thank you.
and I think that's appropriate, Eileen, and we can ask for that. And I think you had brought up one time before about having the same make of cars. That's always something interesting to look at, because it's easier for mechanics if they're only dealing with one type. And the other thing you brought up was, maybe in a report by the city manager, the money, the efforts made towards saving money. I know that tonight we brought up a couple of things, and that's not a bad idea either. And I'm going to ask the council to join me in asking the city manager maybe for a short report in her city manager report with that kind of information.
Thank you, Roy.
If I could throw one more thing in for you, Liz, just regarding the fleets and to Mr. Lester's point.
Yes, Commissioner, please.
Yes, before we actually ordered any new vehicles for the police department, we went to the garage and we got the historical look of the newest vehicles that we're buying. We basically buy Chevys or Fords is what we buy. And the focus was to try and bring the police department in and use just Ford platforms, because they're in the last group, or last 3 or 4 years, they've been more reliable and less problems with those vehicles than we've been having with the Chevys. That could change in the future, but we've gone to a Ford platform right now in the police department. So that's part of our normal planning that we do. We look at the problem, like the last 2 Tahoes that we got in the city were having problems with the front end and the engines and electrical systems for fairly new cars, basically 2 years old. So we switched over to the Ford Expedition, and that's been basically problem free. Knock wood. Let's hope it stays that way. Okay. Hopefully that gives you a little more information too.
See, Eileen, that proves the old adage: great minds think alike. Thanks.
Thank you all.
Have a good evening. Next, Mr. Frazier.
Okay, next, Ann Flomenhaft. 1 second. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Good evening again.
Hi, my name's Ann Flomenhaft. I'm a resident of 10 Franklin Boulevard, apartment 302 in Long Beach. I'm here to notify the City Council of the grassroots campaign opposing the opt-out of legal cannabis sales here in the city. On Friday, February 4th, we handed in approximately 655 petition signatures to the city clerk. And the petition's intent was to put the question of retail cannabis sales to a referendum on the November ballot. As you may know, the city council's opt-out of retail cannabis sales was subject to a permissive referendum, and this means that the law did not take into effect until 45 days after the opt-out. So how we collected the signatures, we had people sign our petition in person, and the person who was requesting the signatures were verifying the identity of those signing and making sure that they're Long Beach residents and currently registered. We had over 20 volunteers, most of them being Long Beach residents, out collecting petitions, braving the cold temperatures and snowstorms over the past few weeks. The people who signed were registered voters who live in the city of Long Beach, and we were making sure of that. Many Long Beach residents are in agreement that voters should have a say in the issue of legal cannabis sales, and it shouldn't be left to a unanimous decision by the city council. Every group was represented in our volunteer and grassroots campaign, including small business owners, taxpayers, residents, homeowners, etc. And all of those groups will also benefit from tax revenue. Long Beach has never needed revenue more than now. We've had a negative and unassigned fund balance for several years running, and our general fund is down by almost 9 million since 2014. Our city council acknowledges that we need a new revenue stream and proposes to install the parking meters, which will bring in revenue through parking tickets. Which is the most lucrative revenue stream? I'm asking the council. Legal cannabis sales or parking meter tickets? Retail cannabis sales are a better alternative to the idea of collecting revenue than with parking meters because the parking meters would disproportionately impact people who are residents of Long Beach and patrons of Long Beach businesses. There's also a racial justice and criminal justice issue around allowing retail cannabis sales here in the city of Long Beach. People most impacted by cannabis criminalization over the years that it was illegal would be prioritized for licenses, which could result in an increase in businesses owned by people of color in Long Beach. Having legal retail cannabis sales establishes control over this market by the city rather than the control that now is had by the black market, which already exists in Long Beach. Some facts: the Long Island Association says that legalization will have the following impacts: 7,300 new jobs, which would all be union jobs. So good union jobs are scarce, especially in Long Beach. So there's already a project labor agreement with RWDSU Local 338 that all the jobs of retail cannabis stores would be unionized jobs. So my questions to wrap up.
Your time has expired. Please wrap it up in a sentence or two.
Okay. Before opting out, did the city council do any research on other states that have legalized cannabis sales for recreational use? Will you put the issue of recreational sales to a referendum? And are you aware of the petitions that we handed in on Friday the 4th?
Thank you, Ms. Am I saying your name correctly? Flomenhaft?
Yep.
Great. Yes, we are aware of the petitions. I'm going to ask our corp counsel to. Rich, you there?
Right now, what were the other two questions, Ms. Flomenhaft? I didn't hear the first two.
Before opting out, did the city council or you do any research on other states that have legalized recreational cannabis sales? And will you put the issue of retail cannabis sales to a referendum on the November ballot?
So what I can say is we had our public hearings on it, and there were some presentations by both local, I guess, and business interests. I think you may have been there as well. That was a lot of the information that was shared. I mean, I did all my own research, and I'm sure the council did as well. I can't speak for them. As far as the referendum question, that's subject to municipal home rule law and the strictures therein, right? So Mr. Frazier, our city clerk, is reviewing the petitions to see whether or not it satisfies the requirements of the law. He's supposed to certify that to the city council, whether or not it does. And if it does, then it goes to referendum. If it does not, then there will be no referendum.
Thank you very much. Do we have a time frame, Mr. Frazier, on when that might happen?
next council meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you. Our next speaker, Dave.
Okay, one moment. Andrew Keene. Go ahead and
Good
unmute
evening,
yourself,
Mr.
Mr. Keene.
Good
Hi,
evening,
can you hear
Mr.
me?
Keene. Can you just state your
Hang on
name?
1 second, sorry.
Okay. Don't start the clock yet, Mr. Freed.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Good
Okay,
evening.
thank you. Good evening. So my name is Andrew Keene, 30 California Street, Long Beach. And my question relates to the council's failure to constitute a board of ethics. In September of 2020, the Nassau District Attorney and the New York State Controller found, after an extensive investigation of Long Beach, that numerous city payments were made improperly and made with, quote, a total abdication of oversight by the prior city council, close quote. The Nassau DA further said that, quote, more active council oversight is also essential to prevent the abuse of taxpayer funds, close quote. She called on the city council to, quote, ensure that its board of ethics is constituted and active to guard against future abuses and conflicts of interest, close quote. So what has the council done to abide by the DA's findings that Long Beach have a constituted board of ethics to prevent taxpayer abuse? To date, nothing. The city's website states that the Board of Ethics is to consist of 8 members appointed by the council. Below the description of the board is supposed to be a list of members. That space, however, is blank tonight and has been blank at least since the DA issued her findings nearly a year and a half ago. Long Beach has no Board of Ethics. The city's taxpayers, therefore, are not being protected by a Board of Ethics to, as stated by the DA, help, quote, guard against future abuses, close quote. In January 2021, the City Council issued a notice asking for individuals to volunteer for the Board of Ethics. Given my background in law and ethical issues over a number of decades, I felt I could make a contribution and submitted my application. It's been 13 months and I've received no response to my application. It's unimportant whether I'm selected. What is important and troubling is the inexcusable failure of the council to meet its moral and legal obligations to the taxpayers of Long Beach, given the history of abuse of taxpayer funds, to constitute an active Board of Ethics. I recall that current Councilman Lester asked several months ago, in his capacity as a private citizen, about the Board of Ethics during Good and Welfare, and was not provided with a response. So respectfully, taxpayers, having waited 17 months, deserve something more than a response that we're working on it. We taxpayers deserve an explanation of what seems inexplicable. That is why, given the urgent need for this council to protect taxpayer funds as per the findings of the Nassau DA and State Controller, the council has not set up a Board of Ethics more than 17 months after being told to do so by the Nassau DA. Thank you.
Mr. Keene, thank you very much for the statement. I agree with you. It's much worse than that, in that I don't think we've had a Board of Ethics meeting for many years now. It is definitely something that we are looking into. And, I can't speak for the whole council, but I'm going to do everything I can to make sure this is moved along as quickly as we can. And I appreciate that other people are bringing it up too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lester. Thank you, Mr. Keene. I'm sorry, Ms. Bendo, please.
Well, I was just going to add an additional piece of information that I guess most people don't have is the type of ethics council Mr. Keene is talking about, and that I think we all want, doesn't currently exist in our city charter.
The charter.
The way our city charter is written, basically the Ethics Council right now, their job is to make sure that elected officials and staff who fill out their annual disclosure statements, that's basically its role. The elected officials and some staff members have to fill out a disclosure statement annually saying if they were given money or gifts or things like that. That's what the current Ethics Council is defined as. That is not what we need. So what we have done is we have tasked the city manager and the staff to go and come up with basically a charter or an outline for what that type of Ethics Council that we want needs to do. And we need an outline for that because we will have to change the charter to have that kind of Ethics Council.
And that would be following the DA's advice.
That would be following the DA's advice. The way the charter is currently written, setting up an Ethics Council would not do what the DA wanted.
Correct. Thank you all.
John,
And
that is correct. However, the way the chart is written, if somebody asks the ethics board for an opinion, the ethics board can give the opinion regardless of what the topic is, as far as the ethics. So it's something I looked into, and
Okay, I don't remember reading that in the charter, but it's
Oh,
possible.
it's there. Yeah, but you're right. Let's work on it.
We got to do this the right way because
Yeah.
we all agree we need it to make sure we don't have the same mistake. Well, I'm not even going to say use the word mistakes. The same bad things that happened in the past, we don't want them happening again. But we need to do it the right way.
thank you all. Next, Dave.
Kevin Heller. Go ahead, Mr.
Go
Heller.
ahead, Mr. Heller.
Hi, Kevin Heller, 635 East Walnut. Curious, the ability to hold public hearings and meetings, such as council meetings by video conference, is that something that is a temporary loss that started in the pandemic, or has that always been an ability we had and have just used it in the recent past?
I'm going to have our Corp Counsel answer that question for you, Mr. Heller.
Hey, Mr. Heller. So public hearings in general, subject to the open meetings law, there's always been an ability for council meetings or public meetings to be held remotely. The distinction, I guess, in since the pandemic is we've been utilizing it more, right? And
Right.
what happened in the pandemic is they amended the open meetings law or tweaked it such that you're allowed to meet completely without any physical in-person presence, obviously to protect the public and the council members, from infection.
Okay.
Presumably. Now, right now, the governor has extended her emergency order probably through March 16th. So that same extension is still there. When that expires, we can still have remote meetings, but there will be some catches to it.
So, yeah, I thought that was the case, and I just wanted to make a statement then, or a request, I would say. I have often found on agenda listings things of interest, but then either personal or work scheduling conflicts didn't allow me to participate live, and this isn't necessarily just participating by Zoom, but the recording of the council proceedings have been very valuable. So when we go back to live meetings, if at all possible, if those can continue to be recorded and posted on the city website, I'm sure I'm not the only one that would find that extraordinarily useful.
Mr. Heller, just so you know, we did, even when we were live, I think we did record. I just think in this particular platform on Zoom, you get a better, I guess, feel or sound for everyone speaking, whereas in our previously live meetings, we have an angle on the camera for our old YouTube meetings.
Yeah.
So maybe it doesn't come in as clear, but point well taken. Thank you.
Yeah, if that can be done, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Mr. Heller. Have a good night.
Good night.
Next, Dave.
Okay, 1 second. Lou Dubow.
Good evening, Mr. Dubow. I hope you are well.
Good
Can we just
evening,
get
all.
Your
Good evening.
name and an address for the record.
Lou Dubow, Kirkwood Street, Long Beach, New York, resident of almost 60 years at this point.
Congrats.
yeah, this August, 60 years. Two questions about the boardwalk. I was on the boardwalk on my bike the other day over the weekend, which was beautiful. The new bike lane signs, I think they're great. I see two questions about that. First of all, is that going to be extended to all the entrances to the boardwalk? And the suggestion about the signs I have, the tops of the signs are comes up to a right angle on the top. I think if somehow that could be rounded when you get more signs, or have something over it, because I see at some point someone scraping against it and the city getting another lawsuit, which we don't need more of those. So that's something I had a question about. And the other thing is e-bikes. I know the e-bikes are illegal. They're not supposed to be on the boardwalk. And at this point, obviously not a lot of people are on the boardwalk, but I know in the summertime, anytime I'm on the boardwalk, I see at least a half a dozen people on e-bikes. And you can really tell it's an e-bike because they got that big battery that's kind of on the bike itself, and they go zipping by into the wind doing 20 miles an hour. So that's something I think needs to be enforced more vigorously this summer. And that's it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. DeBow.
Yeah.
We will bring that to Tommy Kenner's attention about the signs, and Commissioner Walsh will address the e-bikes.
Thank you.
Commissioner?
Took me a second to unmute. Sorry, didn't want to behave. I can actually address both of those. I spoke to Tommy Canner, who's our Director of Operations for Public Works, about those signs. They're going to be spread out more than they are now, and more along the greater length of the boardwalk. They're not going to be as tight as they are right this minute. The next thing also that I wanted to talk to you about, the e-bikes themselves, technically they're not allowed to be used. You can ride an e-bike on the boardwalk so long as you're not under electric power.
Right.
So if you're pedaling the bicycle, you're allowed to use the bicycle. There's considerations and some discussions right now of how we want to handle this going forward. I think the more important issue from my perspective is the speed of the bicycles, not necessarily the type of power that they're under. We do have some challenges in that, we have specials up there, we have police officers up there, especially during the summer. The last thing I want my specials to do is stepping in front of somebody on a bicycle that's going too fast. I don't need them either one getting run over, or two, most people who we try to stop, try to run. So then the other thing is, do I want to put them up there on a bicycle? And now we have a bicycle pursuit going on the boardwalk where we're chasing people going too fast, and we're going too fast as well. So it's funny, but it's dangerous. Funny to say it. So we're trying to find the best way to actually enforce these things. We do have some ideas that we're coming up with. We're talking about the potential of staggering barricades on the boardwalk so that you kind of force traffic to slow down, the bicycle traffic to slow down a little bit. So you have to slow down and go around the barricade and stay within your lane. There's dangers in that too, is that if people aren't paying attention, then they run into a barricade. It's very challenging to be able to satisfy everybody. We're trying to err on the side of safety. So what I'm seriously considering this coming summer is putting some police officers up there on bicycles, staggering them out a little bit to try and deter people from traveling on an unreasonable or unsafe speed, so that we can try to get them a few summonses issued to get the message out that we're not going to tolerate people going too fast. It's been a complaint since I've gotten here. We tried several different things over the last year to address it, and it's a very, very persistent problem. So hopefully that lets you know that we're not ignoring it. But in my personal opinion, if you're riding an electric bicycle and you're up there going 10 miles an hour, 12 miles an hour, that's not a problem whether you're pedaling or not. The problem is the speed on the boardwalk. So, but that is also a decision that the council would make to actually change the whether or not an electric scooter would be allowed up or electric bicycle would be allowed on the boardwalk. So these are just discussions we're having at this point, and none of it is is written in stone per se, but I hope that helps to let you know that we think about it, and it's something that crosses my desk frequently, and my executive staff and I talk about it quite a bit, and we're trying to come up with some solutions.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. DeBow. Mr. Frazier, anyone next?
Judy Vining. Judy, go ahead.
Good evening, Ms. Vining.
Good evening. How are you?
Address for the record, please.
Judy Vining, speaking for LongBeachCOA, 20 West Park, Long Beach, New York, 11561. Okay, a couple of things really. First of all, I too am so proud of our athletes, but I would feel negligent if I didn't talk just a little bit about our director of athletics, who was named Athletic Director of the Year for Section 8, Arnie Epstein. And I'm sure I know certainly Mariah and Tina know him, but whoever has come into contact with Arnie has to know he's one of the unsung heroes of the school district and of the community. There's no child he hasn't touched, whether they play for him or he just knows who they are. And I don't know, just a suggestion, maybe the council might want to pay tribute to him as he was just named Athletic Director of the Year. Just a thought. The other thing, obviously, I need to talk to you about is the permissive referendum, and that requires, which I'm sure Mr. Barrios can confirm, 10% of the voters who voted in the last gubernatorial election in the city of Long Beach, not merely 10% of registered voters or anything like that. But the other thing I would like to point out, because statistics, you can look at things any which way. I know you guys did your homework about this because I sent you a lot of your homework in terms of other states. But we can tell you that for us, we know that there will be no tax money, there will be no revenue at all until at least March of 2023. So we do have time. But in other states, for example, in Colorado, the revenue did not come up to what it was supposed to. It was 0.9% of the state budget. And the cost for each dollar brought in by marijuana and tax revenue in Colorado has been $4.50 because of increased cost of law enforcement. And they're the oldest state, so we have the most data on that. California revenue fell short. So if you're looking for money, I'm looking for the quote, which I can't really find, but it was from former Governor Hoopen, how do you pronounce his name? Hoopen, and he said, "You are not doing this to pave streets and make jobs. You're doing this so people can use marijuana without any legal consequences." And that we already have in the city of Long Beach. But what we don't have is an influx of people coming and, again, driving on our streets impaired. There is no quantitative test for impairment. That's a big concern. Of course, with any substance, we know that youth access, and we don't mean that the stores that are licensed will necessarily sell it, but we mean that the more access there is to a substance in a community, the more youth use. And we have that documented in every single state that has legalized it so far. So that's our focus. We want to keep Long Beach as a friendly, family centered place where our kids can walk the streets without having marijuana dispensaries and consumption sites in their face 24/7 or whatever the hours are. And so the other, again,
That's your time. Please wrap it up in a sentence or two.
Okay, that's about it. You'll hear from me again with the specific data. You've already heard from me, but again, we just want to say, I guess, that 600 signatures in a city of 35,000 really does speak volumes that you guys did the right thing in opting out. I'll leave it just there.
Thank you, Judy. Have a good evening.
You too.
Anyone else, Dave?
Oh, Kathleen O'Leary just raised her hand.
Okay.
Go ahead, Kathleen.
Good evening, Ms. O'Leary.
Hi.
Your name and
Hi,
address.
Kathleen O'Leary, Long Beach.
Thank you.
I just wanted some clarification about the funds that we got for rebuilding. We were in previous meetings, they were talking about a grant to rebuild the downtown area. And then at the last meeting, I believe they said something about we had gotten a grant to rebuild the Bay Area. So are they the same grant, or are they two different grants? Thank you.
I believe that there are two different grants. The one from the last one was the waterfront revitalization.
Okay.
And I'd be happy to, as I have done in the past, send you some more information on that so that you have the exact wording.
Okay, so that is separate from the downtown revitalization.
Yes.
And is there an update on whether or not, what is the status of the downtown revitalization grant?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you, Liz.
You're welcome.
Okay.
I will get that to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good evening. Anyone else, Dave?
That's it.
All righty. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Oh, wait, Commissioner Walsh.
Before we jump off, I want to make sure that I make this announcement for the council, and I know you're aware of it, but I want to make sure the council knows and the public that's listening. On March 3rd, we are going to be holding the next in our series of alcohol and drug awareness throughout the city. We're going to be moving this throughout the entire city of Long Beach, trying to cover all different avenues and all different manners of people, trying to really make inroads in preventing alcohol and drug overdoses. In 2020, we had 48 calls for overdoses in the city. In 2021, we had 78. So we were dramatically up. We lost 20. We had 27 uses of Narcan last year. We lost. We're still waiting on 9 people's deaths to be categorized, have led that way. So we're really trying to make inroads in that regard. We're focusing basically on education, awareness, at our enforcement, at diversion, at prevention, and really at intervention on the part of the police department. So we'll be talking about those types of programs. We're also going to be doing Narcan training at this event. It's at March 3rd, 7 p.m. down at the West School in the cafeteria. And we hope that people of the city come out for it and really learn about the issue. And we're really trying to make a difference and save lives. If we can save one, we've really completed our job. So that's something we're really focused on here in the police department, and we're rolling out an entire new program. And I know Councilwoman Treston has really been working with us, as well as Judy Vining, the K2MA, the West End Neighbors. We have quite a few people that are really involved. So I just want to make sure I made that announcement. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And again, thank you to everybody watching this evening. Thank you to our department heads. And I wish everyone a good night. Be safe.